Um, do you see us live? Do you see us live?
Yes, it shows live.
Okay, it says we cannot connect to your server. Do you see us live? Do you see us live?
Yep. Did you hear yourself?
I did. Is that on my page?
Yes, it's on your page. I don't think it's connecting to the other one.
All
You just have to
right.
remember to share it.
We'll just go with it. Oh my gosh, this is so much fun. It's like an adventure every time we get on because we have no idea what it's going to be, even when we're like following the rules of what it's supposed to be. So, hey, welcome to June 26th edition of Live and Unscripted with your host Jennifer, spelled JJ, and Leah,
Spell Ligia.
spelled Liga. Did you catch yesterday on Tuesday? Uh, or Tuesday Adventures that we introduced Rena as Rena.
No, I didn't see that.
So funny. It's so funny. I don't even know why it's funny. It's because now everybody wants to do it.
Yeah, it was so funny. Oh, we already shared that, but like the guy we're working for signed off on an email. Jeffrey spelled, and then he spelled his name. It was like, what the? It's funny, and I love that it's like this thing that we're doing now. So
Yeah, I did too.
very
I
fun.
did too. Um, okay, so we're still live. I'm just looking at some things over here that we're not spinning anymore, but we're just going to go with it. And at the end, you get to hang with us while we figure out how to actually start and stop the broadcast.
Right.
Um, so it's the end of June. Like how we got here, I'm not really sure. Time seems to just be not moseying, just flying by. And if you're new to this broadcast, it started as Living Courageously Exposed. You can still find those episodes on Spotify and like 8 other podcast platforms. Those are good. Those are really good podcast interviews, and I would highly recommend going back and listening to them. I was able to interview guests from all over the world, actually, and hear their stories. Um, I just kind of got tired of the 2 hours of production afterwards, and I really enjoy this live version of humanity and having conversations live and normalizing that, oh my gosh, we make flub ups in our speech, or we make dumb faces, or we I got tired of some of the professionalism of podcasting. And so currently we do it like this. It's live on YouTube. We want to thank our YouTube watchers, subscribers. If you're not one of the 10 who are there, I would highly recommend that you go get yourself subscribed. Go get yourself subscribed. Share us out. Help us grow. Like, I am in a space where I am unashamedly going to say to you, we really would welcome your assistance in helping us grow and normalizing normal and normalizing being human and all of the things that come with human. That's what Righteous Rebels is all about. And recognizing that we all have a rebellious streak and our own right way of doing things. And that's part of what this new broadcast is all about. And we host it here for now, and it may change. And when it does, we'll be sure to let you know. But I do like the video portion of it too, just because again we get to show humanness and in all its glory. And so anyway, with that, on this broadcast, before we get to breathing, this is a space where it's not prearranged. They're not prearranged questions. They're not prearranged topics. It is a really getting to know somebody and their story, live and unscripted. I most often ask one question, and then we let inspiration be the guide. when it's either myself or Leah and I, and we don't have a guest, it is still let inspiration be the guide. We have an idea of topics that we may share, but we just go with the flow and have conversation. And I'm just going to say, most often there are yummy nuggets somewhere in there that you can take and use in your own life, or maybe some of the sources or resources that we talk about you can go to and pick up and use for yourself, or you can just join us as we do this weekly, or join us in some of our amazing get-togethers and activities. So on Thursdays, Leah does a creative unraveling paint cast. She's also happens to be in Canada right now, and her circumstances aren't super helpful for doing that. And so
not the painting piece, but definitely my intention is still to talk about creativity, and it might be just going to an art store and looking at what that could be. The thing with the paint cast, it doesn't it's a conversation around creativity, because we're always creating, and it's not just about like making something physical. It's also how we create the world that we want to live in, whether it's an interaction or a meal, or just our own internal state, and just looking at different ways to look at that, and taking some of the perfectionism and redirecting, and just becoming more comfortable in our own skin, in our own mistakes, in the learning of that, and being okay with it. So
I love
it will look differently, and maybe it's just creative unraveling in a different way.
I love it. And that I appreciate you kind of explaining that. I was just going to say it's going to show up differently why she's in Canada. And I really appreciate the ways that you have done it. Even when you're here in the States, there are weeks where it just needs to be differently. And I like the field trips to the art store and how you explain things, or just all the different ways that you talk about creativity in our everyday lives, and that we're always creating, either to our detriment or to our, whatever the opposite word of detriment benefit is, to our highest good, to our benefit.
Well, creativity needs movement, right? And that's more my intention with, for me, the watercolor and the painting is more about getting in tune with the movement and the flow, and not getting stuck on it wanting to be a certain way, us wanting to make it a certain way, when it needs to be whatever it's going to be.
Which is the piece I have enjoyed doing with you, because it puts my own shiz right out there for everyone to see.
And I appreciate your openness to be a live, what's that, commentator of your experience.
Yeah, the guinea pig, the voices in my head. It's actually been really fun most days to be able to even see that for myself and speak it in those ways, and to watch my own progression and growth in the process, and how some of that's gotten easier, and the places where it kind of still wants to stick and badger me. And so I appreciate just how you go about it. And so we look forward to that on Thursday. But before we get our podcast started, we always start with just a moment of pause and breathing, where we take just a minute to breathe a little deeper, all the way down into our bellies and our pelvis and our sit bones. And we do it a little slower, and we bring our head and our heart and our gut into coherence, where we can just be right here, right now, where inspiration can be the guide, because we're creating the space for it. It's a practice that you can do many times a day, or especially if you find yourself in a situation where emotions may be escalating, whether that be with your kids or a spouse or a friend, or you're driving, just that you get into this habit of just slowing down. Today, we most often do this with a downward gaze or closed eyes. And today I had, as I was meditating in my hot tub, I thought, just do breathing today with eyes wide open. And just practice doing that. So like when you're in a situation where you're with other people and tensions may be rising or emotions may be rising, you can start getting in the practice of just slowing it down in the process, in the presence of other people. And they may not even really know what you're doing, but you can bring yourself back into a coherent state and I have this saying that I learned long ago that says, when emotions go up, intelligence goes down. And so breathing just brings you back into a space where you can make decisions, where you can hear your heart and hear your voice, and possibly stop a situation from escalating even more than maybe it currently has. Or if you see it headed that way, you can redirect it. So just taking a few big deep breaths. As you do it, feel it all the way down into your belly. And just notice, like, where do you, when you take that deep breath, do you feel it mostly in your chest and shoulders, or can you push it all the way down? And if you're not in that space where you can push it all the way down, just practice. Do it several times a day. An easy way to do this is to lay down on the floor and put some books on your tummy, or to lean against a counter and breathe deep enough to like push yourself back off the counter, so that you really start getting the feel of what that feels like and can practice it more deeply. So with that, we're going to call that breathing exercise today.
Okay.
For me, I love it how I feel it slow me down. How today, even though my eyes were open, how it brought me more present to hear. It brought other things into my mind to say that weren't there. So again, it allows that space for inspiration to be there, and to just be really present with your thinking, and to connect into the energy of source, and also the people that are around you. So, oh my gosh, with that, Leah, do you have thoughts on the breathing, like what it does? I know we talk about this often, but we did it differently today. Like, how do you practice? How do you practice this, and what do you feel like the benefits are when you remember to practice? Because I don't always remember to practice. I'm getting much better. But what is it for you?
I think I really appreciated the just taking a different approach, because in a moment where we need to breathe, we might be, in a place where we need to be paying attention and we can't disconnect from that situation. So I appreciate you bringing just awareness to that, and a practicality to how to practice that when we're not alone. I think I just think that's important. But what came up for me more is like, I've noticed myself today, like really, like like just my body is doing that on its own, and I'm also taking that as cue to like, hey, slow down, pay attention. And or it's a yawning, or it's like just a want to take more of a breath, or a sigh, or it's not just your body your body is doing that, but it's also giving you a sign. Like, for myself, I feel it's more like I'm in an overloaded state with the environmental stuff. So
Right.
more compression in my chest, and like more of a want to take extra big breaths. It's so funny, because I find you have to be more conscious of that. And you also makes me think of exercise, and why exercise is so so important for strengthening our lungs, right? Like, because we have to take those bigger breaths and do it differently than when we're more used to being in a sedentary state. So I think it just brought up some of those things of like catching cues and remembering to move your body even when you feel compressed that way, but move it in a way that's more comfortable, to facilitate the breathing.
Yeah. I agree with all that. My mom just walked in.
Yeah, I figured.
Um, I will you say the S word that you said, that slower setting?
Sedentary.
Oh, okay. Is that how you
Sedentary.
say it? Sedentary. Yeah. It took me a second. I'm like, sedentary. She must be okay. Is that I was gonna say, is that a Canadian way to say that? Or is
I
that
don't
just a, like,
know. It's just what
beautiful?
came through in that moment. It's not a word I use often. Um, so
So funny. I love it. I harassed Leah a little bit about our different pronunciations of words, and it's just kind of fun to hear how differently, depending on where you live, how differently people say things, and it's super cute. So, um, sedentary,
what did I say?
sedentary.
Sedentary, sedentary,
So
whatever.
it's like I just wondered, like, is that how that word is used, um, in the Ontario part of Canada?
Now
um,
I want to spell it.
right? SEN. Um, so
In the US.
the other thing that I love about breathing, that I think, there's so many health benefits to breathing. You talked about strengthening the lungs and all of that, but it's also strengthening of the heart, and that how those two things work together, to deliver blood and oxygen and those things that keep us healthy, keep the muscles actually moving and growing and releasing of toxins and all of the things. So, even just taking a few moments to do it to bring emotions and things back into coherency, just recognizing that there's so many other benefits to that as well is amazing. Hey, if you want to, you can go sleep on a bed.
You want me out of your way?
No, you can be there. I just didn't know if you'd be able to sleep. Um, my mom's coming to sleep on my couch right now. um, so with that, let's move on to the main topic, which is, I have no idea what the main topic is today. We talked about several things, in regards to, it's so fascinating to me how, like, what moves into presence of heart and mind, and the timing of those things, and how, even though Leah's in Canada and she's listening to the things that she's listening to, and studying what she's studying, and I'm here in Idaho listening and studying to, the things, and how much of it actually intersects, or, is parallel in the presentation of the, not the presentation, but in the message, and sometimes a little bit in the presentation. And it's just fascinating. So, Leah, do you want to, like, talk about what some of those topics are? Like, how do you want to go about this today?
Um, the thing that wants to come up, that keeps coming to mind, and I'm wanting to resist it coming to mind.
Then that's the one.
Right, but it's not. I'm not really sure how to talk about it without talking about it.
Oh,
But I think it's important to. I think what's really been present on my mind lately is the idea of there's nothing wrong. The idea of forgiveness, the idea of interplay between our souls, and what we're here to learn, and what we're here to teach one another. And there is value in sharing, and it's not. It'll be okay.
I think I know where you're wanting to go with this. Am I? Am
Yeah,
I?
probably. And um
It's tender. It's tender in nature. Um, it's really, really vulnerable, and it's really personal.
yeah, but I think what's more important, like, is what I've learned moving through that. And just how different things have presented themselves to me, in reminding me and keeping me in a good space. So
I was going to say that, but I was letting you do it because they're your ahas, and they're big ahas. And it's also like I have my own, I know what she's talking about. She can tell you in just a minute, but I have my own experience of, and my own feelings and emotions of this thing. And it's been really interesting to stay open and notice my own thinking and where it wants to be closed there and where it wants to be angry and hurt. But to be able to talk back and forth, and there have been some challenging conversations around this, and to stay open to learning what someone else's healing process is, or how to move through things maybe myself in a different way, or uh, just listening at a deeper level to understand someone else's soul and their experience. And it's been fascinating to watch my process as I've watched you go through yours. And I just want to say thank you.
I just want to say thank you for just allowing me a space to share and to, you know, I think of the things that you've shared in your own learning, and how, like you said, I think when you're talking about how our learnings have been paralleling, just how important that's been to help us navigate through the toughness of the conversations that have come with this incident. So that is supportive to you and helps in how you're processing, but it's also like a way to mirror maybe something I need to hear or reinforce. So,
well, I just keep thinking like we're hearing the same things through different yet similar lenses, and it's the application. Like the application is a little bit different, and it will be different, I think, on the various situations that we will get to move through in the future and whatnot. But it's just been an interesting process to watch and to experience.
Yeah. So I think I'll start with like, I've been on this journey of living, wanting to create a life that I love, that I get to create and use the skills of, like, whether it's design, whether it's art, whether it's writing, that creating a life where I get to do that. And that's like not only my joy, but like the way I exchange energy with people, whether it's like through money or through just ahas or just like interactions and learning. And I love bringing ideas to life. And I've been on this path for, probably the last, I don't know how many years, 5, 10, 20 years, my whole life. I've never been one that I could really settle into a job. And I mean, I've had many jobs throughout my life, but that's always been something that's pulled and called to me. But it's not an easy path. There's times where it can feel really isolating. It feels times where it feels really overwhelming, and how, I'm putting all this work in and I'm not getting the results I want. And then you go through this like, okay, I'm going to learn from the mentors, and you're following all the steps and you're doing all the right things, but you're not seeing the results that you want. And then, life starts pressing on you like, hey, there's these bills, these bills that are calling your name, and, responsibilities. And then, the culture narrative starts weighing on you. Like, maybe I am just, living in a fantasy, or maybe I'm just like chasing a pipe dream, or however you want to put that. So it makes you start to question, and maybe not even question, but look for other ways to support what you're doing. So about 5-ish years ago, I was, more like 3. I was in this place of, I I was seeking something else because I felt like I had invested all this time and money into building, and I was doing a lot of it alone, and I didn't have a lot of support. And like the people in my world were supportive, but I was creating in a silo, and it was incredibly lonely. So I was also seeking out community, and I was seeking out, I need to talk to people, because I also lived in the country at the time, and I didn't have a vehicle. So I was kind of like stuck at home a lot. And so I was seeking a way that I could work from home, bring in income, but also have a sense of support and community. And so I started looking for a job, and I had applied to several jobs, and I found this one that I thought, like, oh my gosh, I was like the best person, because I'm, energetic and enthusiastic, and it was natural based medicine stuff. And like, and I got to do a video to to sell myself to this company. And it was just, I love their core mission. Like, everything just felt so aligned. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the thing. And the pay was really good, and the benefits, and like there was just so much good to it. And I got through 3 interviews, I think it was, and I was like, I nailed that. I was like, I felt so dang good. And I had several other interviews, but that one was like the one that was the most exciting. Like, I felt like I had found my thing. And then because I thought I would have security there, I could build my dream job on the side, or I could still do my creative stuff on the side. And I had it all mapped out. I had it all mapped out how I was going to do all this stuff. And I remember getting the call that I didn't get that job. And I was like crushed. Like, I was so excited, and I was so crushed. And I remember in that moment having this sense of like, it's not my path. Like, it's just not what I was here to do. And that I'm trying to find an easier way to soothe my soul, so I don't have to continue to be in this space of trust and surrender and constant scariness. Like, I think I was really seeking some comfort and some assurity, and that the fruits of my labor were going to produce something that I could say,
Okay.
hey, look, this is what I've done.
Yeah. I have a question in regards to that. Like,
Yeah.
someone listening, who maybe has been in the same or similar circumstances, or maybe will be in the future. And you say you go through this process and you just feel so stinking good about it. And you're like, boom, I nailed it. It's mine. And then you get the message that it's actually not yours. And you say you were crushed. And then you have this like aha of like, well, that's just not the way, like there's something different. Like, how do you know, can you tell me the difference between that knowing that you didn't just make that up to soothe yourself, versus like a knowing of like, this process was for a reason, and that there may be actually something better suited for me somewhere else. So it's not just a soothing of like, oh yeah. Can you explain the difference, or what that is for you, how you recognize that for yourself?
I had to really check in with myself of like, what
When
were
you
you
say
really
check
after?
in,
Like, I had
okay.
to really ask myself, what was I actually after? Did I really want that job, or was I just trying to soothe some of the discomfort I was feeling of not getting the results, or not having a paycheck to contribute to the family to, or of just feeling more useful, for lack of a better word. I think in that space, I was really feeling like I'm pouring all this time and money and energy into these projects, and they're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. And I think I just was in a space I really wanted to have my energy in something that would give something back.
Sure.
And
So if I heard
your way.
Okay, so if I heard you correctly, it was more you knowing the difference was just asking yourself introspective questions of like, why was I doing this? What was I hoping to get out of it? Was I looking to like for lack of a better word, have more clout or something on my resume or something that made me look good and feel good on the outside, but maybe not on the inside? Does that actually help me follow the path that my soul is calling me to? Even if it doesn't have outside results.
Yeah, like I feel like we all make these promises. We barter with ourselves that we were talking about this today. We barter with ourselves that once I get to this position or once I have this or I've accomplished that or I have this to show for, I'll have time for, or I'll be happy when, or I'll feel more settled when. That I think that was my disconnect is I was promising that if I had some security and I had some income and I had that I would then have time to one, to financial support some of my projects, and two, not have the stress and worry of not having income from that. So I was bartering with myself, but I felt like God stepped in. He's like, you and I both know better. That's not going to happen. You're going to get caught up in that world. You're going to get caught up in like achieving, and then you're going to want to move to marketing. And then you're going like, there's somewhere I already knew what I was planning to do, but not being honest with myself and what it would cost me. And just, I think the level of disappointment I felt, because any of the other ones didn't matter. But that one I thought was a good fit for me in the creativity piece, but also the health and environmental sustainability, like all that stuff was so aligned. But it wasn't for me. But I feel like it was a way to show me that I can have everything I was seeking, that I thought that job would answer, that would fulfill in an easier way, versus continuing to trust in my path and in all the alignments that have happened. It always makes me think of like the Steve Jobs quote of, you don't know how these dots are going to connect until you look backwards. But you have to trust that somewhere that they do connect and they all come together to make sense. So I feel like that was a way for me to really look at, like, I was trying to go around, right? It's like the mud thing that we did, that hike, and it was so muddy and we were trying to climb up this like steep hill and it's so muddy and there's this like stream running through and we're walking around the stream.
Let's clarify, steep. Like it was steep, but it was also for a mile of steep.
Yes.
Muddy, rocky. Okay.
Yeah. Steep. But it was so slippery. And then it's tiring and you're like muddy. And then at one point I'm like, I'm just done with this. So I just stepped in the stream, and how much easier it was to go through the stream of water. And you had more grip and you could just move better. And I'm like, the only way is through. So I feel like that was kind of my circumventing the going through, because I thought it would be easier to go around.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So the way that go ahead.
I was saying, how does that segue into what you're probably about to talk about?
So I came to Canada probably a week ago, and I had met this gentleman on an airplane a few months ago, and we had some really great conversation, and he had talked about building business, or how he sponsors this and sponsors that. And I thought it would be a really cool that maybe we could find a way to work together, or if he would sponsor some.
And this is someone who brings in a lot of energy by way of money, and he dresses the part, and like he knows business, like he knows how
Yeah.
to do business and how to
Yeah.
build and grow it. Okay.
Yeah. So he, he shared with me his like custom kitchen building. He has a window company, and like everything's top of the line. It was his birthday recently. He got himself a new Hummer. Like he has, and what really caught my attention with him is how he talked about the openness of, keeping his hands open and keeping himself energetically, like not hoarding money, but like being generous. And the more generous he is, the more business he tends to create. And I felt like it was God's way of saying, what you want is real. And because, we talked about, he came to Canada with nothing, and that he's built himself up to this. And now he takes care of all his family. And it's just something that I so want for myself and my own family. And just to be able to have the resources to move freely in the world. So, really great conversation. And
Well, and you were talking about new possible business ventures or opportunities together.
yeah, like
Something
to,
that you and I have talked about with each other, and then
yeah,
that same topic came into conversations. So like it was like, oh, one
like
of those, like,
investment opportunities, and to align yourself with someone that has done the thing, and I thought there would be a lot to learn from this person. And he invited me to stay in touch and check out his showroom. So, I he was on the way to visit my mom, and I had stopped in a couple times, and we had chatted, maybe a handful of times. And this last time I was on my way to my mom's, I came unannounced to his showroom, and I was with my boys, and we brought him some cupcakes because it was just his birthday. And, it's like share snacks, share coffee, conversation, and then we hit the road. It's just like a nice little break from the long drive. And
yeah.
This past time that I went, there was a moment where he said that he wanted me to show him, or he wanted to show me something. And then the next thing I know, I'm in a situation that I'm not sure how to get out of, and I'm taken super off guard. He's crossed a boundary, and I've clearly communicated that I'm not interested and wanting to pull away. And there's like, I'm not going to get into all the details of that, but it was just super uncomfortable. And there was nothing to suggest that one to expect that. There was no like flirtiness. There was just no indication that was something to expect. And
So I'm hearing you say there was physicality without consent.
yeah. And I just remember like leaving there, just so I felt so betrayed. I felt really like just my space violated, not just my space, but like my sense of how to interact with people, and how did I miss those cues? What cues was I possibly giving off that I wasn't aware of? Or like what was it that made him think that kind of interaction was okay? And I think I was just more grossed out than anything. And I couldn't understand how we went from like nice, friendly conversation to something like that, where I feel like restrained and unable to just pull myself away. But clearly communicating, this is not what I want. So I I have the opportunity to speak in another language, and thankfully my kids don't understand that language. And after the fact, I called my mom, and I was able to just like share what had happened and just, release energy that way. And then I thought, why? At first I was just like, I was hurt. Like, why would this happen? And, how could he do that? And now any hope for working with business is never going to be the same. And like, just all the things that came with that. And really, I was really in a space where I wanted to shut down, and I wanted to really question what my heart was leading me to. Like, that, why would my heart be open to that so I could just get hurt? And then, wanting to work more from my logical side, and, I can't trust my heart, and that, you can't have what you want. You can't do this because you don't know what's real.
Well, and may I interject here? First of all,
Please.
I'm sorry that was your experience, and we've had that conversation. It's just really crappy. And for anyone who, that's your situation, just we feel for you, and we're sad that that's the experience. But I also, as far as you're talking about your heart and your gut, and you actually and I had a conversation recently about your dad having conversation with you and telling you, don't trust your heart. You got to trust don't trust your gut and your heart. You got to trust your head, because the others will just get you in trouble. So like that thinking and thought process was coming into play during all of this is super fascinating to me as well.
Well, and just like the wanting to protect yourself, right? And then
which all of us would.
Yeah, for sure. And then it's like that place of wanting to make sense of it. Like, I've done enough work and developed enough understanding. Like, there's always some sort of lesson, no matter how crappy it is. Like, you're bringing those things into your presence, whether you know it or not, like, because there's something that needs to be processed or seen or experienced in a different way. And the thought I had most recently in regards to that whole situation was it almost mirrored the whole job thing of like thinking that there's an easier way than to continue to trust the process, thinking that there's like that I would essentially have to sell my soul to get what I want through that path. With the job, it was sell my time in exchange for dollars. In this situation, it would have been like be physical with someone I didn't want to be physical with in exchange for dollars. And that it was like a very visceral and like physical way to experience that lesson at a different level of like, you have to go through, you have to continue. This is my takeaway of like, you have to continue to trust and not think that it's not about ease. It's more about the path. I don't know. I think I've lost my train of thought there.
You do know. I think you're explaining it beautifully, and it's a lot. I just want to say thank you for your incredible amounts of courage and vulnerability to share. That's a really personal thing, and we've had conversation about it. And so if I appear that I'm a little more at ease with this, then maybe I should be. It's because we've had conversation. We've had time to talk about our various feelings and emotions. Like, I feel them, like I still feel them. And one of the things that we talked about before you got to these more aha moments for you is the tendency of like how we heal. The tendency, and sometimes culturally, depending on the culture that you were raised in, it's the shove it down, move on, don't feel it, don't talk about it, just, it's something crappy that happened, move on.
Yeah.
And I know that you and I had that conversation because it was feeling like on my end. And again, I'm here, you're clear across the country and in another country. And I'm not able to see how you're moving through this process other than our conversations. And just this again, this is a concept that's been coming into our presence. It's come before, but it's coming at a different level at this point of making sure you take the time to heal things as they occur, like staying open to feeling them, even though it's could be uncomfortable or ouchy, but recognizing that when you take care of them in the moment, it's far less ouchy than if you just put a Band-Aid on and just continue to ignore it, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And that's stuff we're going to talk about later. But tell me what that, if you want to, or feel like, what was that process for you to, because I know you had a tendency to want to like just say, enough. It happened. It's done. Enough. But to feel it and get to be able to get to the space of, and maybe there's still some feeling going on, but to that space of like, okay, I recognize some of the things here, and here's maybe some of the aha moments in this, while being grateful that it could have been worse.
Yeah, and I think that's something I really settled myself in, that although it was uncomfortable, invasive, disgusting, it could have been a lot worse. And I'm grateful that I have I had the thought of like, I'm really grateful that I've seen this now before I became tied with this person financially or in business or that kind of way, where it would be harder to pull away. But at this point, I can say my piece and move on and just not interact with that person anymore. I just really took notice of how I was feeling. Like the day after, I felt very unsettled and just like unsure how to interact with people. And I'm sure that's a protective thing for me and just for any of us. Unsure how to interact. That wasn't a present thing, but I did notice like I didn't want to be social with people I didn't know. I didn't want to necessarily be out. Like I really just wanted to either be alone or just be coloring with the kids, or like just more not with other adults kind of interaction. I think I was just seeking comfort and without knowing that's really what it was until after. I think I've lost track of your question of how to move through the feelings.
How did you stay open to a newer practice of feeling the feels in the moment versus shoving them down, letting them fester, and then come up in other ways later and possibly create havoc and collateral damage and all? Like, just how are you able to sit in that and instead of just push it down and start that healing and that healing process, but also the being able to stay in a place of trust?
Yeah. I don't think I did really great at it. At one point I thought I was doing well. But I did feel myself more sensitive and more triggered to just certain things said or certain interactions. And I did really want to shut down and push everything good away from me, just as a way to protect. And I think it was just really, really meaningful and important for me to have someone who was willing to navigate in the mud with me, as much as I was really doing my best to resist that and push it away and tell myself just reflecting back some of the things I was saying that I didn't even realize I was saying, of like, what are, whatever stories are going through your head, you need to knock it off. Like, that's not true. And that's not how that works. And I didn't even recognize I was in those stories until things I had said been said back. I was like, oh, well, shit. So it's not an easy thing to stay open, like, because we have this want to protect, but if we, I don't know, I having the support, certain readings was really good. I feel like I've really pulled away from writing, because I don't love what I always find in writing. And I don't know that I'm in a place that I can do that right now, which is so funny to say, but having something to
that's
talk to you about it is really was helpful for me.
yeah.
It makes me think of like the whole yoga experience. Like, I've heard of hot yoga and stuff before, and didn't think anything of it. But then my sister-in-law, she's like, oh my gosh, I tried this hot yoga and I felt like this piece of me just like, oh my God, I have to try that. And like, when do we do it? And how can we do it? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, where is this excitement coming from? But I was so excited to try it. And just some of the ahas I had taking that first class, and the excitement and the flow that came through was really beautiful. And just keep moving, keep talking about the things. It's those things that we feel shame about, or that make us want to push the good things away in our life, is when we're trying to hide something. But like, those things can't survive the light, and we do a really good job of trying to hide it so they can continue to grow. And I'm like, but why? Because we think it's going to protect us. We think it's going to help us in our being able to navigate the world, but it really just hurts us. And I think the biggest aha I had of that whole experience in the yoga practice was, something you and I had talked about, of like past selves protecting us, and being able to speak to those places. It's that piece of like, when those different reactions come up in us, or the protective selves come up in us, and we behave differently. It's telling those pieces of ourselves, like, it's okay. Like, you did a great job protecting me, but it's actually hindering my growth. And the aha I had was like, we have so much work to do. And if I keep giving the reins to you to try and protect me, it's just going to keep me back and push away what's helping me grow and what's helping us move forward. So, like, thank you for looking out for me, but you can rest now. I've got this. That's been such a beautiful learning that I've had the opportunity of learning more about and understanding with you. So thank you.
So yeah, you're welcome. I know those conversations aren't easy. Like, we've had some rough goes when those protective pieces of us want to come up and be in charge, and we're sometimes we don't recognize when we're allowing those protective pieces to like be in control, because they're so used to being in control. And the reality is, they're tired too, and they're just doing what they know how to do, and they're fearful, and they're doing their job, and they think their job has been to protect, and so it continues. And so I love that you're in this space of like being able to say, well, I'm recognizing you, and I appreciate what you've done, and you've done a really good job, but it doesn't really work for me anymore, and you get to rest. Like, I'll take over from here. in that space and that recognition of those pieces of you, how do you feel like those pieces respond? Like, is there sigh of relief on their part? Do they want to resist and be like, yeah, no, but you can't be okay without me, or you're like, how do you go about that? Or do you even know yet? Like, are you there yet?
It was so new. Like, it was yesterday. I had that, like, so after the yoga practice, we had this, like, just laying down meditation and just quiet time, and having that, like, that image come up. I felt the resistance of like, yeah, but then also understanding and being able to say, we have so much work to do. Like, I see you, but we have so much work to do, and it's actually not helping me. It's actually holding me back. And just being able to recognize that for myself, like, I don't think I ever would have put it that way. I never recognized that in myself. I never experienced the way I have in the last year. I didn't have that level of awareness. But that, again, has been because I have someone that sees me, understands my stories, and can reflect back to me and help me see things that I'm not seeing. Because when I'm in that space, I go very much to a logic, and it's all about, my head knows the way, and can't trust the heart. And like, it's the reality piece, of, we have to follow this path. So I don't know. I don't know how. I think time will tell if it's really settled, or if I have to have another pep talk with that one. But I feel
Well,
hopeful. Like,
don't you think that, like, you and I've talked about having check-ins and just seeing, where we're at? That ginormous fly or its cousin is back. But don't you feel like I've shared stories of being out running and my body talking to me and me checking in with it and saying, hey, I recognize that the knee is wanting to talk, and we're okay. We'll keep going down the road and we'll check in. How do you feel? Like, do you intend to have check-ins with these pieces of you that have worked so hard to protect you? Do you think there's value in that? Maybe you haven't even thought about that yet, but
I don't think I have until this moment. I don't think I really have until then. I think what keeps coming to mind is, like, what I've been learning in the radical forgiveness, or even with you, we've talked about this before, of, like, the interplay of souls and the agreements that we've made before coming here. And
yeah.
That beautiful story of, I lost the name.
Neil Donald Walsh has a story called Little Soul in the Sun that talks about the interplay of the different souls and how we interact and teach each other.
Yeah. So, like, that we have these agreements that there's something we want to go to Earth to learn and experience, and that someone agrees to help you realize that experience. But the deal is, like, you have to remember who they are at the core. And really, like, I have to understand, like, I'm really good at judging, judging,
What?
like, yeah, judging, like, when I want to be, that piece of me tends to come out when I'm in a fear state, like when
Sure.
I'm in worry or overwhelm or all the things, and I want to resist it. So it's my way of staying strong, in a way to battle the fear. So to keep it away, to not feel it, to not acknowledge it. So yeah.
Wow. It sounds like you've had a big week and a half of big learning. A lot of
Right.
stuff to process through and understand and let go and surrender and at the same time, making space for deeper learning or maybe more heart-centered learning, the recognition of the God that's already in us and that we are. And it's been really challenging and interesting and fun to watch you move through the process and to have the conversations that we've had and to just see how your growth through all of this, but also just the recognition of like how I processed it too, because I wanted to judge. I wanted to judge hard. I was angry. And had I
Well,
been able to get my hands on that person,
right?
but I really appreciate, again, just having to remind myself and the pieces that still want to protect me, like, whoa, stand down. We know some different things, and stay open, listen, and to learn from you through this as well. It's just been a beautiful experience. So
Well, and
I think it's crappy that's the way that it came, but at the same time, I just appreciate your willingness to stay open to it and to talk about it and move through it and start healing it.
well, and I want to really like emphasize that in no way, like my okayness with it's not that it was in any way, shape, or form was it okay, or like, because I've had to question that in myself, like why is that, like why are you just like pushing it? But I don't really feel I'm pushing it aside. I feel like it's just I understand it differently, and it's not, the thing was done to me, but it wasn't, I feel safe, I think is what I'm saying, is that I know how to not be in that situation again. I feel confident that that person's not going to pursue me. He doesn't know where I live. He doesn't know anything really about me. So I think there's a distance, a safety and distance, and that it's not going to happen again unless I legit put myself in that situation. Um, so I think that's been part of it, is knowing that I'm safe and that uh, I don't feel in danger. Like, I'm not sure how else to say it. Like, in no way was it okay. And if something is like that has happened to you, like, um, there is a process that you go to, but I think the most important thing is to talk about it and to tell the people around you. I think that was really helpful for me to not hold it, and to not let it um, sit within me to create meanings of what it means about me, because it's so easy. It's so easy to get in that mindset, and like, a story that I've had for a long time is like, because I was told this by someone in my world of like, no one cares. They just want you for this, or they just want you for that. And that really wanted to poke that story in me. But also recognize, like, you gave me the reminder that there are safe men in my life, and that there are.
And we've lost her, at least on my screen. Maybe she will. There she is. Okay, hold on. You blitzed out.
I don't know. That's so funny.
You blitzed out that at the part we said that there are safe men in your life.
Yeah, just that reminder that that's not true. I just love the idea
No,
of like,
it's true that there are safe men in your life.
yes,
Okay.
and that's the story that I had been told, or the idea that someone had shared with me, that story isn't true. That I have more to offer that way. I just lost my train of thought, but anyways, talk about it.
Right.
Make sure you.
I appreciate. Yeah, I appreciate you bringing up the piece of in no way, shape, or form is what happened. Okay, not
Yeah.
in any shape or form. And honestly, if I knew there were grounds to press charges, I would press charges. Um, it's not okay. Uh, and if you have been in a situation where you have been taken advantage of in any way, shape, or form that way without consent, and I appreciate, Leah, that you're like, talk to somebody and if necessary, go to the authorities. Um, I would imagine that would be super scary in many situations, but they're there to help you, and seek the help that you need. Um, whether it's a counselor or a hospital or whatever it is. Um,
Even self-care, like really taking care of yourself and like, whether that's writing or a hot bath or, like getting out with friends or whatever that is, like really
moving.
listen to that piece of you and what it's trying to tell you. So
Awesome. Well, and
yeah.
I think that goes along with our just the thread and the theme that came through of starting the process of healing now. Like, take the sliver out when you get the sliver. Clean the wound out when the wound happens versus just letting it fester and become worse and worse and worse, and then just adding all the things that come with that. So, again, I appreciate that we've been able to talk about this and start that process like immediately. I just find it fascinating that the things that we've been learning. So this is a thing you've got to know when you are grasping your own rebellion and learning to listen and come back home to your heart, is that no matter what, it doesn't matter where it's at, you're always going to get a practice ground. You're going to get a place to practice these things. And I just find it fascinating that some of the things that we've been learning or that you've been learning individually, you've got an opportunity to practice it in a big way. And crazy. It's crazy.
I think it's really neat though how it plays out in other places of our life. I just think of a conversation I had with my little guy yesterday about asking what you need. I to the point of like deal with things when they first come up. I feel like in that situation, me pulling out the sliver was like ranting with my mom for an hour in Spanish. Like I feel like that was pulling out the sliver for me, and that made everything else a little smoother and easier for me.
Yeah.
Just putting words to that. And I wasn't super great in the last couple of days for asking for what I need until I recognized what I was doing. So I just love the reminder that I'll give this quick story of the boy was like having super attitude with me, and he's not normally like that. And I just pulled him aside. I'm like, what's going on? You're not normally like this with me. Has something happened? Are you feeling something? And then he was like, and then he told me how he was feeling. And I'm like, so how can I love you through that? And he's like, I really just need a hug. So, when it starts up, I'm like, do you need a hug? And it's like a cue when we're snapping at people or we're expressing in a way that we normally wouldn't express. What's the need? What is it we're not asking for that maybe would soothe that for ourselves?
Well, and I think taking the time to know that for yourself. Like,
Yeah.
what are some of those things that are the quick healing salve, that doesn't,
Right.
before again, you shove it down and then an explosion happens later because there's all the you take the time. A hug is simple, a hand. I love it. I love that you're able to have those conversations too. Like you say, that it's coming full circle. Like
Yeah.
you're learning, but also getting to pass this stuff on, and it's really cool. Again, I just want to say thank you for your bravery and vulnerability to share, and just thank you. I'm a little at loss for words. I'm a little lost for words.
Well, I just appreciate how much through our conversations and how much you get to practice with me, all the things that you know and learned, so you can pass those things to me so I have better understanding, has been such a big leap for me in having better awareness, and not better, but like more depth of awareness of the things that I thought were under control. And just how much that it really isn't. So I
Yeah,
appreciate
and that it's okay that it's not.
it. Yeah.
So I guess maybe just this is like, if you're in need of some tools in your world, or you want to learn some different things, different ways of being that can bring about different understanding of yourself, of other people, way to see the world with a different perspective, we've got some things for you. And we do it through play and creativity and adventure, and recognizing that this is all just one big grand adventure, and we're all in it together, and learning to really normalize being human and all of the emotions and feelings and thoughts and actions that come along with being human. And we're all doing it, so we may as well do it together and be a little more kind and a little more understanding as we do it. With that, we're going to end it right there, and just thank you, Leah. You guys, if you've got questions, feel free to put them in the comments or reach out and ask them. If you're interested in how we present these tools and how you can get them in your world, reach out, and we're happy to share with you. There's changes coming to how we do some of those things, and can't really give them to you yet because we're not exactly sure what that path looks like. But as it starts making itself known, we will present that to you. But for now, you can just reach out, and we're happy to have conversations. We're happy to coach. We're happy to take you on as a client. We have some spaces, and we're happy to play. We would love for you to come and play with us, whether it's a Tuesday adventure where we're inviting people, or it's just an outing that we're doing, or whatever it is, classes, speaking. Hire us to come speak for you. Like, we would love that. We would love that. We can bring some serious magic to your event, to your people. Any last thoughts from you, Leah?
The thing that comes to mind is like, stay open. If things are coming into your presence of like, whether it's a podcast or a reading material or a conversation out of the blue, or to reach out to someone, or like something comes to mind, make the connection. I don't feel like it's a coincidence that the podcast I listened to and the Radical Forgiveness book that came through that podcast was an accident. Like, it really has helped me understand this whole process, and give me some really great reminders of the tools that I already know, and that I get to learn at a deeper level. So there's clues all around us, and it's all part of the experience and healing that you get to have.
I love it. I love it. You've got a scavenger hunt of clues. You just gotta keep your eyes open and keep searching. Again, thank you, Leah, for your shares, for your vulnerability and your new learning, and look forward to seeing what tomorrow's creative unraveling brings. And you look forward to it too, huh?
Yeah.
And again, its premise is about inspiration. It's not very often, it's not a planned thing, but just going with the flow. So with that, we're just going to say thank you for being a part of what we do and enhancing our lives and our human experience. And remember to be bold,
Be brave,
be rebel. Oh. We slaughtered it, but that's okay. All right. And now we get to go through the process of figuring out how to actually start and end this podcast, this broadcast. We love you guys. We appreciate you, and we will see you soon. Have extra, maybe grab an extra drink while we figure this out.
So
all right, we're hitting go live.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's our
Now countdown. So dumb.
All right.
And now you can end it.
Right. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next week on Live and Unscripted from Canada. I know. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, here we go. Ending.